askreddit. NSFW. Doctors, what was the best excuse you've heard for someone having something stuck in their ass? Guy told me he was constipated, so he stuck the broom handle up to break up the poop. I almost believed him. Edit. It was half of a broom handle, cut off and wrapped in electrical tape. All the way inside his ass. I am a nurse, a male as well. Guy came to my hospital with a cue ball stuck in his rectum. Said him and his wife were having sex and this happened. Made no excuses and showed no shame. Doc was unable to remove it with forceps and he had to get anesthesia to have a minor surgical procedure to get it out. My job was basically to just go through a pre-surgical checklist and send him on his way. When I'm done he shouts excitedly, "All right, let's get this ball rolling." I almost died laughing. It was near the end of my shift and I always wonder what happened to him. I'm sure he did fine and is back to having amazing kinky sex with his wife. Nurse. I tried to dig something out of my ass with a barbecue skewer. Skewer got stuck. Ripped a hole in his intestines. He waited so long to come in he was septic. One stat or visit and a NICU stay later. Please don't call my mum. Guy was dripping hard on LSD. Jesus Christ, my moment has come. A friend of mine used to work in a dispatch call center for emergency services. In these call centers there needs to be a triage nurse on site to deal with life-threatening situations. So my mate tells me about this story she had, where a man came in with a garden gnome up his hoop. His story was that he went shopping and locked himself out the house, so needed to climb back in through the second-floor window, fell back, and got entered by the gnome. I mean, the gnome was inside his pants, like there was no gnome-shaped hole in his pants. But whatever, let's call it a miracle. So anyway, they get this gnome out, fishing rod and all, patch him up and send him on his way. 3 hours later a different dude comes in with the same problem and the same story. After cutting through the bullshit they determined the two blokes had been gnoming Agatha, realized they both needed doctors, arranged to go to different hospitals with this 200x story, and one of them got mixed up. Still makes me laugh to this day. When I was a student working in an ER, a guy came in with an unraveled wire hanger stuck and hooked up there. He said he was trying to fish out the vibrator he lost. Guy came in with a cordless phone up his ass, like one of the old school ones from 15 years ago. He said that when he was in the kitchen bending over opening the oven door, someone threw it through his open window and it just went right up. I've been laughing at this for the last 20 minutes. Because honestly, how freaking traumatized would you be if that was true? Innocently bending over in the kitchen, whilst nude obviously, and a shitty mid-2000s cordless phone hurtles up your butt. So the guy was so embarrassed that he shoved a phone up his ass that he decided it would be better to say his asshole was so loose that a phone could just be tossed right in? Well, okay. Saw someone with a remote control stuck way up in their colon. She said she was getting herself ready for anal sex with her boyfriend and then it got stuck. The kicker was that she showed up to the hospital with her boyfriend and her husband in tow. I stuck it up there on purpose and now it's stuck. Please help. It was a perfectly honest and valid reason for have something stuck up your ass, and we helped. No further questions needed. Paramedic, here. Had one guy tell me he slipped on a banana peel and landed on the upright vase on the floor. He then proceeded to produce a banana peel for good measure. Related, guy puts a vibrator, one of the massive cordless one types, up there, like a mega seed, and it gets sucked into the sigmoid colon. When he gets to me in the ER, I ask him how he was feeling. He answered, "Well doc, I'm way better since the batteries died. Made my night." It always boils down to the person accidentally sat on it. The best my dad saw, a former emergency doctor, was a young guy who accidentally sat on a giant tub of Vaseline. Accidentally. I asked how doctors record that in their patient files. and the common way to do so is to say the patient claims to have sat on X object. Patient states, stated, followed by a factual description of what you see. Patient states they fell on the dumbbell/carrot/sausage. On examination, no visible bruising or lacerations seen related to the fall. Clear jelly-like substance seen around the object. My mom was a nurse and always remembered the guy whose wife was out of town, so he was cooking naked and slipped and fell on a potato. Presented at ER in Sydney with carrot stuck in the ass. Doctor, what happened? Patient, I heard noise in the garden. Went to investigate. Slipped and fell over. Carrot went up my bum. Doctor, carrots grow upside down out your way, huh? Friend's mum was a nurse. A man came into ER with a cucumber in his bum. Apparently he was vacuuming his fruit shop in the nude and slipped over. Not an ass, but a vagina. I was doing my clinical rotation in 3rd year. Did a cervical assessment on 36W pregnant woman who thought she was in labor, painful cramping, plus discharge. I found 8 gloves of garlic. She thought she could avoid group B strep with it. She read it online. She thought they would dissolve. 1. You can't avoid GBS like this. 2. They turn to slime and mush bulbs. They don't dissolve. She was not in labor, she was responding to an infection. A nasty one. She was admitted for fluids, object removal, meds, and monitoring a fetus for treatment overnight. I finished my 24 hours shift before the next op wrapped up. Cramping stopped very soon after we got it all out. Last I saw her she was just feeling sad and dumb. I felt really awful for her. She was trying to do the right thing for her pregnancy. GBS, gut bacteria found in 1/3 of adults at any time. Some could try screen for its presence because in rare cases it does nasty things to baby if they get colonized at birth. My sister is a surgical nurse and a guy came into the hospital with a pool noodle shoved up his ass. It was so deep that they had to cut open his abdomen, intestines and colon to cut the foam out of him. He said he fell on it while swimming nude. But when they cut him open it had a condom stretched over the end of it. When they confronted him he said, "Please don't tell me, wife." My friend is a nurse. She told me about a guy who came into her ER. He claimed to have fallen out of a tree and a branch went right up his ass. They x-rayed him and he had this perfectly round wooden rod up his ass. When they removed it they saw that it was sanded, painted and primed. That branch must have come from a genetically modified species of tree. Lol. I went to school in the deep south. Burly, middle-aged southern gentleman showed up in the ed. Chief complaint, rectal pain. After a full history and physical examination couldn't ascertain the case of his pain other than him saying feels like something's up there. We decided to start with some x-rays. Before we obtained them, he says, "All right, I'm gonna be square with you." I was walking down the street, minding my own business, when these thugs jumped me out of nowhere and held me down and stuck a cucumber up my butt. "Please, you got to get it out." I immediately went to get my attending. One surgical consult and GI consult later, a cucumber wrapped in a condom was extracted from this man's rectum. Trying to reduce prolapsed hemorrhoids he developed after a long, arduous poop. Doctor term. Of course. I wondered how a vegetable peeler was the most available object to be had in the bathroom. The vegetable peeler became stuck, as these things tend to do. However, this was the kind with slits in the plastic and his formerly prolapsed hemorrhoid tissue protruded into the slits, making it impossible to remove, also cutting off blood supply which made them necrotic by the time we went to the OR. What kills me is that his next move to try to remove this object from his anus was to try to cut it out with scissors. It was horrible. A jagged piece of plastic wedged in. Horrifying and, indeed, quite memorable. My mum told me about this one when she was doing rounds in the ER. Guy came in with a bottle of Worcestershire up his butt. Said he was making a sandwich in the shower and slipped and fell on it. My grandmother used to be an ER nurse. Apparently back in the day, these kinds of stories were shared over fax. A hospital in network had a story about a patient CC was abdominal distress. Radiograph reveal odd radiopacities in pairs about 3/4 of an inch apart. Docs counted 3-4 pairs, couldn't figure out what it was. Exploratory surgery resulted in 4 Barbie doll heads in the patient's large intestine. After the discovery, patient stated that he had a fetish. He swallowed Barbie heads because he liked the way the hair felt on the way out. The radiopacities were the doll eyes. Apparently there used to be metal in the paint or something. Top comment after reading facts: Barbies are expensive. Did he recycle? RN here. Had a Jehovah's Witness gentleman admitted to ICU with his bowels perforated. States he had constipation, so he decided he needed a cleaning. He happens to do pipe work, so he hooked some pipes up to the hose, then inserted the other end in his rectum to just give it the old swish and dump. Burst his colon from the pressure and all the hard pipe crammed up his butt. Unfortunate thing was he needed a blood transfusion, but oops, he's a Jehovah's Witness, so no go. I learned then that they actually send a group of people to the hospital to watch you and make sure you don't stray from your faith. I always wondered what he told them. I worked on a surgical ward for a while and we had a few strange items. I can't tell you what their excuse was because we saw them post-operatively. One guy stuck not 1, not 2, but 3 snooker balls up his bum. One guy stuck a clay pigeon up his bum. That one was pretty impressive. One guy, 92-yo, tried to fish out a vibrator with a coat hanger, and my personal favorite, a guy stuck an old Nokia 3310 up his bum. They x-rayed him and took him to theater. They kept trying to fish it out, but he kept getting phone calls from his mum wondering where he was. Every time she rang, the phone would vibrate further up his bowel. Remember how back in the day you could get those crappy $2 ringtones where it wouldn't sing the lyrics but it would buzz to the words and music? Guess what his ringtone was? Will Smith's Getting Jiggy With It. Thank you and good night. My mum worked in emergency for a long time back in the 80s, and this is her favorite story, but it was a vagina and not a butt. A woman had used one of those wide, shallow face cream tubs as a diaphragm. Predictably it became stuck while doing the deed and she presented at the hospital fully honest about what she'd done. Anyway, they managed to remove it and then she asked for the tub back because it still had face cream in it. True story, and not funny to this day. In high school, my best friend's twin sister got a frozen banana stuck in her ass. She was so mortified that she had her girlfriends attempt to remove it by squirting boiling water in her rectum with a squirt gun. Some of the material from the melted water gun was also found. She suffered burns so bad she was put on a special, liquid diet and missed the final 2 months of school including graduation. Worst of all, it happened at spring break in Cancun. Her parents didn't truist the hospital, but due to the severity, rather than fly her home, the surgery was delayed a full 24 hours until her parents could travel down to supervise. Not a physician yet, still in medical school. On a shadowing rotation, a young woman came into the ER with a cucumber up her butt. When prompted why and how it got there, she responded with, "I wasn't paying attention while I was cooking." Her boyfriend had a different story. Mom worked in admitting for the ER. Guy came in with flashlight stuck. She asked why he had done it and he said, "Well, I was on drugs and it seemed like a good idea." Sober me disagrees.